KUAM TV8, first on Guam. KUAM News headlines are presented by Calvil's Insurance, protecting Micronesia for 85 years. Matson and the Adahi Itano program. Apply at matson.com. Cars Plus, Guam's leader in sustainability and electric vehicles. Learn more at carsplusguam.com. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on KUAM News Primetime.
A concerning rate of Guam's youth are vaping, including those as young as elementary school kids. And Mitsuki Hariyama kicking off a series of reports on the dangers of e-cigarettes like this.
Plus, a second convicted killer argues this week why she is not responsible for the death of the former Humatak mayor. The arguments made inside the High Court.
The U.S. military presenting its revised training plans for the island of Tinian. I'm Tomas Manglona with the story, as some residents still have major questions nearly 10 years since the plans were introduced.
Half a day and good evening. Welcome to KUAM News Primetime. I'm Nick Delgado.
And I'm Destiny Cruz. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day.
An alarming rate of 1 in 3 high school and middle school students are currently vaping. This, according to the update from the Guam State Epidemiological Report.
Tonight, we kick off a series of reports on the prevalent use of electronic cigarettes in Guam, particularly among our youth. Mitsuki Hirayama with a rundown of the data and the health risks of vaping.
The statistics are concerning, an important message for parents now that alarming data out of the 2021 update to the Guam State Epidemiological Report is made public. In 2019, a staggering 68.9% of high school students and 49% of middle school students have tried vaping. 1 in 3 of Guam's youth are currently vaping. A primary author of the report, Dr. Annette David, says Guam's youth has the highest rate of e-cigarette use globally.
When you look at those data and you compare them to the rest of the nation and as well to the region, to the Western Pacific region, our youth have some of the highest rates, not just in the US, but in the region and in fact globally. Very, very worrisome.
But what's not stated in the report, those even as young as elementary school children are also vaping.
From the reports that the teachers and students are telling us, electronic cigarette use is also happening among elementary school students. And in fact, some of the schools have reached out to us, the elementary schools, because they've had to confiscate the electronic cigarettes from their students. And we're talking about very young students here.
She says it's a serious concern as vaping is a gateway that leads them down a path to nicotine addiction and a grim future for their health. Back in February, parents at Ontalon Middle School were on edge after hearing reports of students suddenly falling ill. The Guam Department of Education later confirmed 2 middle schoolers got sick after they apparently inhaled cannabis-infused vapes. American Medical Center family physician Dr. Hoa Wen outlined some of the health risks.
It's a big problem for us. Like I say, it's addictive, just like cigarette smoking. So when you start such a young age, and you have much more children that's vaping than smoking in the past. It's not the smoking is somewhat not like vaping at this point. You're going to have increased risks of a population that have lung disease and heart disease.
Dangerous from a number of ways, from pulmonary, cardiovascular, and potential carcinogenic effects. And aside from the physiological effects, there are also risks of physical injury.
Risks such as explosion and fires, and we've had those happen here in Guam where the devices have exploded. In fact, there was one case that was reported by one of our surgeons where the patient was vaping and the device exploded while he was vaping and he needed to have facial reconstruction. And then, of course, the fires that come when these devices explode.
The report stating there were at least 2 known cases of vapes exploding at Guam DOE schools, which led to the Guam Police Department stepping in. Guam law prohibits the sale, distribution, purchase, and use of vapes to anyone under the age of 21, but it's not stopping the youth. Dr. Wen says there needs to be more education on the risks of vaping.
This is where the education part need to be much more out there, and also to start in the family. The parents really need to pay attention to children and make sure that the children does not vape. There's a lot of pressure in school.
Meanwhile, Dr. David is hoping for more regulation.
For instance, there are so many flavors that are available out there. And so really regulating those flavors and perhaps even banning them altogether will be a way to protect the youth.
Matsuki Hirayama, KUAM News.
Thanks, Mitsuki, and she'll have more part 2 of youngsters vaping in Guam tomorrow.
Thanks, Suki. Yeah. 3 unsealed federal search warrants identified the drugs that federal authorities found in packages they recently intercepted. Documents just made public Tuesday detail what federal investigators came across after first searching 2 parcels sent from California to an address in Dededo on July 12th.
One of those items containing 2,101 grams of THC oil, the other 661 grams of that same oil. A third package mailed to and from the same address in Dededo, showing investigators finding 154 grams of marijuana and mushroom-based pills. No charges have been filed in connection to those unsealed records.
After a lifer argued why his conviction that he murdered former Humatak Mayor Daniel Sanchez be overturned, his co-actor also making the same argument before justices in the High Court.
Murder convict Joyner Scott Sked, through her attorney, contends investigators did not have enough evidence to prove she did it.
Taking the witness stand during her murder trial in February 2022.
Did you recklessly cause the death of Daniel Sanchez under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life?
No, I did not.
Did you recklessly cause the death of Daniel Sanchez at all?
No, I did not.
Murder convict Joyner Scott Sked denied killing former Humatak Mayor Daniel Sanchez inside the Superior Court then, and today she maintains her innocence. Scott, who is serving life in prison, appealed her conviction before the Supreme Court of Guam. Defense attorney Peter Perez arguing for Sked's acquittal, contending prosecutors did not have enough evidence despite the jury's guilty verdict.
In the end, no witness testified that Ms. Sked murdered the victim. No witness said that Ms. Sked caused the victim's death. No witness said that Ms. Sked assaulted the victim. No witness said that Ms. Sked caused serious bodily injury to the victim. No witness said she acted recklessly. No witness said she acted with extreme indifference to the value of human life. There was no DNA evidence connecting her to the offense. There was no recording evidence establishing the offenses. There were no fingerprints. There was no incriminating serology evidence. And in a case where there were 23 stab wounds and 4 chop wounds, and there was blood spatter at the scene, you would expect that there would be blood evidence connecting the defendant and her clothing to the offense, which did not exist in this case.
But Chief Justice Robert Torres questioned that argument.
There was some testimony that she was aware that the victim had been stabbed, even though that information had not been released or made public. At the point that she had said that, she had showered and changed her clothes more than once since leaving the residence, the residence or the shack where the body was found, and that shack was locked from the outside. Another person, I think it was Mr. Dunca, talked about she was either very nervous or freaking out about the police. She also asked someone who was a complete stranger, Miss Cruz, what would she do if she found a dead body at her boyfriend's house? And so, it seems that there was at least circumstantial evidence.
But at the same time, again, it comes down to, does this establish the elements, or does it create mere suspicion and innuendo? And in this case, there are instructions, and these instructions I don't believe were given here, but when you have mere presence, for example, in a conspiracy case, that's not sufficient to convict.
In April of 2021, Sanchez was stabbed with scissors and bludgeoned with a hammer. His body was left inside co-actor Rudy Canata's residence with the door padlocked. Canata also appealed his conviction earlier this week. The High Court has yet to decide in his case. Pairs also arguing today that Kanata could have been the one who used the hammer and scissors during the killing, adding prosecutors should have only charged Sked with what they could prove. However, prosecuting attorney Marian Wolashuk says the evidence was enough for the jury to convict Sked.
If you look at the evidence as a whole, you can see that the defendant was with the victim around the time that he died, with her boyfriend as well. She's the one who mentioned there was some sort of love triangle that went wrong. The jury can infer that there was extreme indifference or recklessness. Recklessness has as part of its definition the extreme indifference to the value of human life. And so, the fact that she left the house and she knew that the door was chained and padlocked and there was somebody inside there who was either dead or dying, and there's no evidence that she called anyone or contacted anyone or made any report, that shows that you're extremely indifferent to the value of human life. There's the fact that she disappeared for several days after this happened. She told Fred that somebody stabbed somebody, even though her testimony when she did testify is that Rudy told her that the victim is dead in the house, don't go back to the house. But she never testified that Rudy told her that the victim had been stabbed. So if she knows the victim is stabbed, she has something to do with it. She is the one who did it.
Wolashuk adding Sked's testimony was self-serving and she tailored it based on testimony provided by others who were called before her during trial. The justices took the appeal under advisement and will issue a decision.
A man accused in the deadly crash in Barrigada denied the allegations filed against him in the Superior Court of Guam. 46-year-old Sean Camacho Damian pleaded not guilty to charges of vehicular homicide, imprudent driving, and insufficient clearance. He was released from prison today following his arraignment before Magistrate Judge Jonathan KUAM. As we reported, charges against Damian were initially dismissed without prejudice before a grand jury handed down the indictment against him. It was on February 6th of this year when Camacho was driving a car along Route 16 in Barrigada near the main post office facility when he allegedly hit a cyclist. The crash resulting in the death of 42-year-old Jeffrey Ignacio. The court released Damian from prison today and placed him on curfew.
A federal judge issued a warrant for one of the men who admitted to his role in scamming Guam residents out of millions of dollars. Sentencing was set today for defendant Jide Abimbola. He was a no-show in the courtroom. His local defense attorney Jay Arreola previously asked the court to delay the hearing, stating Abimbola was recently robbed and lost his license. Denied the request. Court documents state Abimbola is currently in Florida and was ordered by the court to appear in person for sentencing. His case will be heard again tomorrow in the District Court of Guam before Senior Judge John Connor. That's when co-defendant Ogachuko Iwuji will be sentenced. As KUAM reported, the defendant scammed more than 50 people out of more than $2.3 million in advance scheme. The victims were promised large amounts of money for paying a fee, but they never got anything in return.
A local bar owner testified that he did not see defendant Nikita again drive the red Jeep the night of the crash at Jerry Kitchen. Trial underway again in a high-profile drunk driving case.
Phil Roberto, owner of the venue bar, testified before Judge Alberto Tolentino Tuesday as the prosecution's witness. The venue was the bar that Ugin and her 3 passengers, including an off-duty cop, were at back in February 2021. During cross-examination, defense attorney David Lujan questioned the witness what he saw.
Or the female police officer who operated the Jeep as it departed. Isn't that correct?
I can't exactly recall. Yeah, possible.
Yeah. You keep saying, possibly.
I think the incident or the night in question was our first opening night after being shut down for several months.
After COVID?
Yes.
Yeah.
As I was manning the door because there were stringent protocols that we had to adhere to in order to be open.
Yeah.
Including social distancing and whatnot. When the video clip that showed all the ladies, the group coming in, were all wearing masks. So
Yeah.
I couldn't, only by voice could I distinguish. And some partial facial recognition, I can recognize Ms. Matanani, but in terms of the other ladies that came, I had no prior personal knowledge of them.
Sure. So the other three you did not know at all?
No, sir.
Until that night?
Until the following morning.
Well,
I met them that night.
Well, you
Yes,
met them
yeah.
that night.
Yes.
And so whatever knowledge you had of them began that night.
Correct.
But you can't tell this jury who drove that jeep.
I could not, sir.
Okay.
Uggan is on trial for allegedly driving a Jeep that crashed through Jerry Kitchen restaurant in Tamuning more than 2 years ago after the group had gone out for a night of drinking. Tracy Matanani, a passenger who is familiar with Roberto, previously testified she left early before the crash occurred. Defense still contends that Uggan was not the driver.
She doesn't have to defend her innocence. She's innocent. The government is the one that has the burden of proving that she's guilty.
So who drove the car? Did she tell you who drove the car?
Once you talk to Olan, ask Mr. Olan.
Uggan is charged with driving while impaired as a misdemeanor. As KUAM reported, surveillance footage from a bar showed Uggan and 3 of her passengers taking 7 shots within 4 hours, with Uggan taking at least 2 more. She was also seen swaying multiple times at one point and laid her head on the bar while the passengers rubbed her back. According to court documents, the passengers were later seen helping Uggan down the stairs as they left the bar. Then 10 to 15 minutes after leaving the bar, Uggan allegedly crashed the Jeep into the restaurant. She allegedly told police she was trying to make a left turn but lost control of the car, struck the curb, and crashed into the restaurant. Now to a forgery and theft that landed 3 people in prison. 34-year-old Aini Antonio is charged with 5 counts of forgery, 2 counts of theft of property, and 3 counts of theft. 37-year-old Lynette Wanichu and 39-year-old Matthias Robert are each charged with complicity to commit theft of property. According to court documents, police responded to a store in Mangmang Totumaiti last December after a worker reported checks cashed then were returned because the bank was unable to identify the account. The bogus checks totaled nearly $800. A similar incident occurred at a Dededo check cashing business with the total forged checks nearly $1,600. The trio allegedly planned to cash the checks to split up the cash, Antonio allegedly denying signing the checks.
2 years after the Superior Court judge dismissed the double pay class action lawsuit case brought up during the COVID-19 pandemic, arguments are heard today in the Supreme Court as certain GovGuam workers are still fighting to get the money they contend they are owed. Attorney Joshua Walsh represents a large group of the employees that have been seeking double pay for work during the early days of the public health emergency.
Line agency employees of the government of Guam assert, like some other government of Guam employees who were paid overtime at the emergency rate, that they are owed additional pay for the work they performed during the COVID-19 pandemic. They filed a case seeking overtime based upon both the explicit pathway for direct court action allowed under 4 GCA 6221.1, as well as the grievance review pathway laid out by the.
Are you asserting that they are seeking overtime or double pay? Or is there a distinction?
I actually don't think there is a distinction. I think the phrase overtime used in the regulations and I think contemplated by the writers of the rules say this is pay owed to the employees. I think it is telling. Our government of Guam employees, and I know I don't have to inform the court about this, but I will, they are intelligent, smart, dedicated workers. They know what rules apply to them. They know how to bring grievances about problems in their workplace. They have done that in this case. But the sovereign's pathway to get a resolution on that laid out in 8406 and onward just doesn't work. So to say that therefore you have no pathway at all, I think would be a mistake, especially since the Guam legislature has clearly articulated a waiver for situations for government of Guam employees to say, I'm owed money, I should be able to sue over it.
The justices took the matter under advisement. The Guam Memorial Hospital acknowledged today it's struggling to pay vendors, drawing strong concerns from Oversight Chair Speaker Therese Terlahi, who calls it a potential crisis.
The issue came up as GMH officials were called to the Congress Hall to answer questions about the fiscal year 24 spending. Chief Financial Officer Yuka Hechanova says hospitals across the country are facing similar challenges and are shutting down.
We don't have that option. We have to stay open. We can't close our peds ward and not take any more pregnant mothers or close the ER, but we're in our research, many hospitals are closing their doors, just running the ER, just running their surgeries, just running clinics because they don't have the resources to keep it open. And we don't have a choice, we have to. So that's why we're really struggling right now and it's really just this year, in the prior years, we had the luxury really of having a lot of federal funding from COVID that really addressed all of the expenses that were coming down. Now the funding has run out, the expenses are still there, if not even higher than before. And we're losing nurses. The doctors need to be paid more. It's really becoming a challenge.
I think we have a crisis. When you have vendors not responding to the hospital, that's a crisis. And it puts us to do all this kind of, a roundabout ways of getting maybe less than your optimal product that you have been getting in the past. And I don't want to see that for us. So I just hope if you meet with the governor again or whatever happens, that they look at other funding.
GMH Administrator Lillian Posada says she met with the governor this week to also advise her that the Corrections Department has run out of money to pay the hospital for treating inmates.
Meanwhile, earlier in the day, a last-minute bid to provide the cash-strapped Education Department with another $10 million this coming fiscal year did not pan out.
Senators voting down the amendment during today's session after a majority agreed they can't dole out money they don't have. Nestor Lecanto reports.
The GDOE budget shortfall is substantial. Education officials had asked for $295 million, but got only $247. And with more than 90% going to payroll, just $10 million will be left for everything else. Education Chairman Chris Barnett wants to give them more.
No secret, we had the Guam Department of Education Superintendent and Mr. Franklin Cooper Nurse, the money man down here, and they basically said they would need $30 million. And so this $10 million would go to utilities payments as well as contracts. And they would have no issue at all with spending this money because they need it.
But Republican Senator Chris Duenas argues they can't promise what they don't have. He says if the intent is to carve it from fiscal year 23 excess revenues, they won't know if the cash is even available until a full year audit next June.
And therein lies the issue. See, empty promises are the worst thing that any legislature can ever do. And the problem here is even when we talk about this potential, first of all, now we're appropriating again within fiscal year 23 for fiscal year 24.
But Speaker Therese Terlahi argues the money is not only needed, it's available.
We had BBMR, DOA telling us we have actually collected 11 million more. And every other appropriation prior to today, we have used this number. In fact, they've even deducted all the appropriations that we have made from excess funds to show there's a whole list of appropriations made from excess FY23 funds. But all of a sudden, now you guys are going to tell us we don't really have excess funds? That's honestly, what is going on here?
But Duenas used as an example his Bill 3705, which returns previously appropriated FY23 excess revenues of $20 million to GDOE, money that had been diverted last year for pay raises.
Point of information, yes. Mr. Chair. 3705 was adjusted the budget. Okay?
Correct.
So let's be very, very clear about when we're talking about funding sources here. This amendment does not adjust the budget. It does not raise revenues. It does not take into consideration other categories such as rainy day fund and other taxes that would be affected by it. When the appropriation was made in this fiscal year for the $20 million, it was done right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Point of information, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, per Public Law 3705 raised revenues. What was the source of that revenue raise? It was excess funds. I don't understand the hypocrisy that they want to throw out here right now.
Do your budget the right way. It's not hypocrisy. It's about if you're going to do
Order.
an amendment,
Okay.
do it the correct way.
Ultimately, the Barnett amendment to give GDOE another $10 million failed. Nestor Lecanto, KUAM News.
Unveiling a silent threat, the concerns over mold in our public schools and elsewhere following the aftermath of Typhoon Mawar lingers.
Tonight we speak with an expert who is shedding light on the potential dangers of mold. This amid what appears to be mold growth thriving behind new ceiling tiles at a local high school.
What could possibly be lingering above the heads of students, faculty, and staff at George Washington High School? Education Oversight Chair Senator Chris Barnett sharing a photo of what appears to be mold growing behind new ceiling tiles at the school on his social media. Guam DOE announcing GW High students are set to return to campus on a traditional schedule by the 23rd, amid the results of mold remediation remaining in limbo. Chris Rhodes, a certified industrial hygienist through the American Board of Hygiene with over 20 years of mold remediation under his belt, breaks down what we're looking at in the picture.
This is behind new ceiling tiles at GW. So can you kind of walk us through what we're looking at? It appears to be mold, but can your expert eye tell us what we're looking at?
From what I can see, I would definitely address that as mold. Okay, I don't know the entire backstory of it or where it is, but anything I would see like that, would be something I would want to sample. I would want to identify what's growing there, why, because certain types of mold will only grow when there's a constant source of water.
It's investigative sampling that Rhodes says is critical for determining potential health risks, as high concentrations of mold are worrisome. The industrial hygienist adding reactions when exposed to mold vary amongst each individual.
Mold is individual. People are going to have individual reactions to levels of mold based on allergies and stuff like that. What we worry about are very high concentrations of mold. We don't want to see high growths of visual mold. And it can be destructive if the concentrations are high. You know, people sneezing and runny noses, and it's distracting.
And as Rhodes says, mold needs a food and water source to help it thrive. We can only hope the water damage at schools post-Mawar has already been solved.
When we talk about mold, we worry about water and the food source. We never want standing water, and if there's we keep seeing the mold, we know we have a leak or somewhere in there that has to be addressed. So mold is systemic.
Though Rhodes says that investigative sampling must be done to identify the mold species, its life cycle, and if it has fruiting bodies finding new places to grow, he weighs in on whether or not GW students should be concerned about going back to school come next week.
If it's not on the actual drop-down ceiling tiles, then I would not consider it an immediate concern. A long-term concern is the fact that it's growing above there, but it can get into the air handling units and things like that. So it needs to be addressed at some point.
Now only time will tell when the mold will get cleaned up and if certain students will or won't react negatively to the growth.
A new law signed today is aimed at preventing undue delays in GDOE's rush to clean up schools. The governor signed with reservation Senator Sabina Perez's bill authorizing temporary expedited procurement protest procedures.
Public Auditor BJ Cruz says this isn't the first time such procedures were enacted. He says they were successful before and he's ready to help again.
I'm glad that she signed it. I'm happy. I mean, she may have reservations and I agree with her. I've been talking about this for over 10 years. It was over 10 years ago that I was chairman of the procurement at the legislature. And we did a couple of things then. When the ARA funds were being used, we used an expedited process.
The temporary expedited procedures are for GDOE acquisitions that use American Rescue Plan, Education Stabilization Fund, and Head Start grant monies. In a message to the Speaker, the governor was concerned that it was only a short-term fix. She urged lawmakers to permanently amend the law to discourage the filing of meritless protests. While the U.S. Marine Corps is hosting a series of public meetings with residents on Saipan, Tinian, and Rota about the revised CNMI Joint Military Training proposal. The proposal, first made public in 2013, faced overwhelming public criticism that forced significant changes to the military's plans on Tinian and prompted a second draft environmental impact statement.
Regional correspondent Tomas Manglotnia reports.
It's been 10 years since the U.S. military issued its notice of intent introducing its plans for a range and training area on Tinian and Pagan under the CNMI Joint Military Training Project. Overwhelming community comments, accompanied by lawsuits and government resistance, triggered a renewed environmental review process in 2016. Major General Mark Hashimoto.
We listened to the voices of the people of the CNMI, and we think the information that we have will provide the public with a good understanding of what our proposed action is for enhanced training on Tinian, and will allow them, when the draft EIS is published about a year from now, that they will be able to have all of the information digested so that they can provide formal input to the environmental impact statement process in about a year.
The changes are significant and are a result of grassroots community activism.
We reduced the number of live fire ranges from 14 down to 2. We took away the amphibious landing beach, which would have caused significant requirements to mitigate possible damage to coral. Training on Pagan is no longer part of the proposed concept. There will be no air-to-ground delivered munitions. There will be no what we refer to as dud-producing rounds. I think that was the cause of a lot of the concern, where they were artillery and things like that, things that explode. That has been taken out of the concept. So I think those are most of the main changes, although I would also like to add that we don't have the need for what is referred to as special use airspace. And the significance of that is that Star Marianas will be able to operate in the same manner that it does today.
The military hosted a series of poster sessions and public meetings this month, 2 on Tinian, 1 on Rota, and 2 on Saipan this week. It's a gesture they hope allows the community more time to digest the revised training concept on Tinian, where 2/3 of the island are leased to the military. Saipan resident Paul Guerrero attended the session on behalf of his company.
You know, they're pretty thorough on their explanations of what they've got planned for the next couple of years. But it's nice how they have like individual stations that you get to go and understand step by step what they're going to be doing.
The community was able to ask questions as a group after the poster session, where military experts stood by to answer individual questions. Residents who spoke up expressed concern about stressing local infrastructure, the introduction of invasive species, social impact, the frequency and magnitude of the training, and effects on the housing and rental market.
There's still a lot of things that we have to figure out the answer to. Some of the things that have come up with consistency are biosecurity, solid waste, and the aquifer, so water use.
Military officials say that under the current plan, there will be no uniformed personnel based on Tinian. There will be 3 major exercises a year that would bring in 1,000 people in each month they're held, and there will be 7 to 8 smaller exercises in the year that last 1 to 2 weeks, involving 100 to 150 people.
We're coming out with a draft document that will look at impacts to the environment, impacts to the community, and then we'll have a series of public meetings and a public review process associated with that.
Saipan resident Herman Cabrera still has many questions after the public meeting.
I'm concerned about the environment. I'm concerned about the historical site. I'm concerned about the area, the water, the beach around. So those are the questions that we need to protect. I am not against the military. I'm with the military, but we need to balance out the environment, the historical, and a lot of things that public doesn't know about the sound, how it affects the neighbor, how it affects the people, and the contamination of the soil. how it's going to affect the life of the people. Is it healthy? What about if they do some explosive bomb? Would that chemical spread in the ground and it will reach down to the aquifer? Those are the questions. And do they measure that? Do they have any data in the future to measure those kind of contamination in the soil? So those are my concerns.
Those concerns come at a time the military is stiffening its posture in the Pacific.
The region is becoming more and more dangerous, and we are in the business of keeping the peace. That is our primary job. That's what we do every day through deterrence. Should deterrence fail, we have to be ready to fight and win. And when I say fight and win, I mean the entire United States military. And the thing about the United States military, as I like to point out, when it comes to the CNMI, which is of course part of the U.S. homeland, and that's our number one priority, is to defend the homeland, is the number of service members from the CNMI. As I like to say, you are us and us is you. So many of the men and women from the CNMI serve in our armed forces, and one of the things that we need is to be able to do realistic training, and that's what the combined CNMI Joint Military Training concept will provide our service members.
The military says it will provide regular updates at www.cnmijointmilitarytrainingeis.com. Tomas Maglonia, KUAM News, Saipan.
Thanks, Tomas. Well, now to a notice on our giveaway this week. All week long, we are giving you one chance to get your hands on a pair of Jokoi comedy show tickets.
This is for the newly added 4th comedy show set for Tuesday, August 22nd. This time, all you have to do is subscribe to our newsletter, the KUAM Digital Digest. One lucky news subscriber will be drawn at random and announced via our newsletter this Friday. Just visit KUAM.com or the KUAM News app, look for the newsletter tab, and subscribe. Good luck. Remember, you must be a resident of Guam and able to provide proper ID to win. And with that, Tess, no joke for us tonight?
No joke tonight. Do you got one?
I think so. Well, from our Joe Nuggentarfus, our news director, what do you call a bad rainbow?
I know.
Or where do they go, right?
Yeah, where does
I already messed it up.
Where does a bad rainbow go?
Where?
To prison. Oh,
Dun,
that
dun,
was a great
dun.
one. Bum, bum, bum.
We'll have more news in a moment.
Keep it here to KUAM, your leader in local news.
And not jokes.
Watch KUAM TV 8, live on Peacock. Check out our live channel, NBC shows, live sports original programming, movies, plus so much more. Visit peacocktv.com/local or download the app and subscribe today.
New chicken nuggets from KFC?
Everybody's gonna want these. Let's eat these inside.
Brand new Kentucky Fried Chicken Nuggets. You've never had nuggets like these.
The wait is over, Guam. The all-new state-of-the-art car wash is now open at Cars Plus. Introducing Finish Line Express, open 7 days a week. The all-new cashless drive-through car wash is also the largest car wash on island that can accommodate vehicles such as lifted Jeeps and full-size pickup trucks. Just roll up, pick a wash, insert credit card, or show your EverWash app, and roll through. Plus, power vacuums are available to clean the interior. Show your vehicle some love today at the all-new car wash at Cars Plus in Mighty. Open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
Hello, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please?
ご注文はお決まりですか?
The McNuggets of chicken.
I haven't had a Big Mac in a long time.
How many filet of fishes did you eat? That's over several months, Ryan.
Quiero un McFlurry. In Puerto Rico, a McFlurry it's called a Señor Flurry. 2 golden menus.
A wonderful crew at McDonald's.
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 They're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's.
Are you gonna order something?
Free Typhoon Mawar debris cleanup is underway by FEMA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Stage and sort eligible typhoon debris, including green waste, large appliances, residential construction, demolition debris, and metals as soon as possible at the residential right-of-way to take advantage of this free service. Ineligible debris will be left on site and may result in illegal dumping fines. For updated Information by village, visit tinyurl.com/cleanupgu. This ad is paid for by the Office of the Governor of Guam.
Don't need a work break, keep the smile on your face. The moments you can't replace, and I'll be around. Whoa, you can count on me. You can count on me for life.
Wherever life takes you, we're always here for you. Calvo's Insurance. Count on us for life.
What you need to know from the Northern Marianas. Follow KUAM CNMI on Instagram for the latest regional headlines.
Welcome back to Prime Time. The Maui community is coming together to solve problems they say local officials simply aren't.
And a surfing star is leading the call to action. Here's Steve Patterson.
In the hours after the nation's deadliest fire ripped through the heart of Maui, residents from across the island were already finding ways to heal. Neighbors helping neighbors, by land and by sea. Maui superstar pro surfer Kai Lenny is known for shredding some of the world's biggest waves.
Kai Lenny, fin drifting down a drop.
Now, in a crisis that's consumed his home state, he's laying down his board for a megaphone.
What's your mission right now?
My mission right now is to serve the people however I can.
With roads jammed, Kai jumped on his jet ski to reach the people of Lahaina, many still cut off from fuel, food, and precious medication.
There's no electricity, people need propane, diapers, bottles.
Kai telling us he was contacted to help when friends and family who lost homes told him they were still waiting on government aid.
The frustration amongst all the locals is like, where is everybody?
Something we heard from residents.
If people can't get their insulin, they're going to die.
We still have loved ones that's trapped, for example, my dad.
The government says it's doing all it can to care for a remote area with limited resources.
I think the real problem has been the communication, and I just don't believe that our state officials, county, know what to do. There's certain things that need to happen immediately, and I'm proud of the community for doing that.
The Hawaiian word is kokua. It means to pitch in with kindness, no matter what. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Maui.
This fourth indictment in Georgia puts Mr. Trump's legal troubles on even more of a collision course with his campaign. So far, it appears to have boosted the Republican frontrunner.
Garrett Hickey now on whether these charges could be different.
The historic fourth indictment of Donald Trump tonight shaking up the 2024 campaign. The Republican frontrunner slamming the charges as another witch hunt by a Democratic DA and vowing to release what he calls a conclusive report on Monday, proving his disproven claims of election fraud in Georgia. Trump allies blasting the growing set of charges he's facing.
This should be decided at the ballot box, not in a bunch of liberal jurisdictions trying to put the man in jail.
The Georgia case also criticized by Trump rivals.
We see the legal system being weaponized against political opponents. That is un-American and unacceptable.
Even a fierce Trump critic.
I'm uncomfortable with what I read last night. I think that this conduct is essentially covered by the federal indictment.
But while previous indictments have been a boost for the Republican frontrunner, the Georgia case could be more politically damaging, with televised court proceedings likely to drag on through all of 2024 in a critical battleground state, where the popular Republican governor and Trump critic Brian Kemp is a potential witness against him. Kemp posting today, the 2020 election in Georgia was not stolen. Our elections in Georgia are secure, accessible, and fair. The Georgia indictment adding to a legal minefield during the heat of the campaign. Trump's arraignment likely happening near the first GOP debate. Then there's that looming federal election interference case prosecutors want to start just before the Iowa caucus in January, plus a March 25th trial over hush money payments in Manhattan and a May 20th trial in Florida on the classified documents case. Tonight, voters in Georgia reacting to the new charges.
I firmly believe, from my standpoint, that he's guilty.
The Democrats are scared to death, and they'll do anything they can to keep a Republican, much less Donald Trump, get in office.
The investigation into 9 missing firearms from the CNMI Department of Lands and Natural Resources Enforcement Division has been dragging on for 3 months now. On Monday, CNMI Governor Arnold Palacios told KUAM the full firearms survey by the Office of the Public Auditor that triggered the investigation should be made public. In response to a statement, Acting Public Auditor Dora De Leon Guerrero told KUAM over email that unless OPA decides to proceed with a formal audit, the results of a survey are maintained internally and not published.
She added such other records of OPA, including preliminary assessments, are statutorily confidential under the law unless disclosure is deemed necessary by the public auditor in the performance of his or her duties. CNMI Governor Arnold Palacios telling the media he is not aware of any other missing firearms at government agencies. CNMI Governor Arnold Palacios says he welcomes a full audit of the $36 million in COVID relief funds that the island receives during the pandemic. Recently, auditors through the U.S. Department of Treasury uncovered $11.1 million in questioned costs on the CNMI spending of the CARES Act. The questioned costs are largely tied to contracts worth more than $50,000 between March 2020 to March 2022. Palacios telling KUAM that they will continue to look into that spending and hopes to find documentation to support it. Otherwise, the CNMI could be at risk for future federal funding.
You were Lieutenant Governor at the time. I know we've discussed before how you were iced out of the administration, but do you have any idea of what these major contracts would have been for?
No, I really didn't. I was completely taken out of the loop. I mean, I wish I could answer that question, but that's the fact of life. And, you know, believe me, even the janitor downstairs was reluctant to talk to me. That's how crazy it was, because they were afraid of getting disciplinary adverse action if people see them talking to me. So that's how isolated I was.
Palacios ran against former Governor Ralph Torres in the last general election while he was the lieutenant governor.
Tinian hosting its third annual Beef, Beer, and Bands Festival over the weekend. The event features bands from across the Marianas, a beer Olympics competition, and tasty Tinian grown beef that leaves you wanting more. The event also included beef Calaguin and best frittata competition. Wow. Tinian Mayor Edwin Aldon welcomed residents and visitors that day.
Our economic and hopefully a small municipal would start to move forward in producing our cattle in the Marianas. Tinian is known to have the most cattle in the Marianas, and we are investing in this development and this push drive that we wanted to do.
Local leadership is hoping to revive the cattle industry on island.
I gotta say, I want to know who won that competition so I know who to check if I travel up there.
Amen. All right, well, making their way from Tahiti, the Peruvian ship VAP Union sailed 29 days to port here on Guam this morning, ready to immerse themselves in the island culture, enjoy some much-needed rest and relaxation, and engage in community service projects.
Yeah, welcome to the crew there. Jonah Goncharfris was there when the ship docked at Naval Base Guam and has this report on the ship's world journey.
Docking at Naval Base Guam early Wednesday morning was a Peruvian Navy training tall ship, the VAP Union, with its huge white and majestic sails adorned with flags and the proud midshipmen and crew standing tall while festive music blared in the background. The VAP Union is a symbol of national pride. Captain Jose Arce is the commanding officer.
Back in 2012, the president funded the construction of this beautiful ship. It was asked to have one tall training ship, and our president said, not only you're going to have one, but you have to build it yourselves. So we didn't buy this ship from another navy or from another country. This ship has been built in our shipyards. It's made by Peruvian workers, by Peruvian hands, with Peruvian tools and Peruvian expertise.
The construction of the VAP Union took almost 4 years to complete. In January 2016, the Peruvian tall ship was commissioned. The voyage is part of its world training deployment for its Peruvian Naval Academy and will take the 97 shipmen and crew of 247 around the world over the next several months, traveling 34,000 nautical miles. During this journey, the sailboat will visit 20 ports in 16 countries on the 5 continents, to include Tahiti, Tokyo, Busan, Shanghai, and Bombay. And once they cross the Suez Canal, the adventure will lead them to parts of Egypt, Italy, Greece, France, Spain, and Jamaica. Their travels will conclude once they reach the Panama Canal and return to Peru. The last circumnavigation was 167 years ago for the Peruvian Navy.
Every year, the entire class embarks on a unit and gets the training, academic training, on hands, on deck training of the ship, and go places to see our allies and see different cultures and see how the world is outside of our own borders. For this time, this is the first circumnavigation of the ship. What we think is the most important part is the soft core development that we can provide for the mission, is forge their character and also get to talk and get to see other cultures where our interests are, and see this beautiful island.
Welcoming Captain Arce and the crew was Governor Lou Leon Guerrero.
In standing here reflecting the importance of our ally, the importance of our nation and our Guam to ally with Peruvian ship and with Peru in the protection of our waters. Although Peru is thousands of miles from us, but we share the same Pacific Ocean. And although we are distant from Peru, our cultures and our traditions and our warmth and our kindness and generosity of our people are the same.
While here on Guam, the crew will dive into the island culture with tours, enjoy some rest and relaxation, and take part in community service projects. Also, the island community is invited to tour the Bap Union. Tours will take place on Thursday, August 17th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Last pickup is 12 noon. And on Friday, August 18th from 11 pickup is 5 p.m. Tours are open to ages 8 and over, and participants should wear closed-toe shoes and avoid wearing high heels or carrying large bags or backpacks. Transportation to the ship will depart from the Visitors Control Center outside Naval Base Guam every hour on the hour. Meet at least 15 minutes prior to departure. Jonagan Charfris, KUAM News.
Wow, that looks amazing. It kind of takes you back in time, huh?
I feel like it's like a beautiful expedition.
We should go.
We should. I'll leave
go
my
in on a trip on our favorite Peruvian ship.
Wow, that flowed perfectly.
Thanks. Speaking of flowing, now for a look at your world at home. Here's a view captured from the water aboard the visiting Peruvian Navy ship docked at the Naval Base Guam.
This view plus more tomorrow music streaming now on Isla Digital Radio.
Pre-Typhoon Mawar debris cleanup is underway by FEMA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Stage and sort eligible typhoon debris, including green waste, large appliances, residential construction, demolition debris, and metals as soon as possible at the residential right-of-way to take advantage of this free service. Ineligible debris will be left on site and may result in illegal dumping fines. For updated information by village, visit tinyurl.com/cleanupgu. This ad is paid for by the Office of the Governor of Guam.
Honey, do you want some milk?
Do you ever wonder how your favorite products make their way into your local stores? Most arrive on state-of-the-art Matson vessels that transport containers of food, household items, equipment, and supplies into the islands every week. Because we know that you depend on us, we work closely with our partners to ensure that our shipments arrive on time, all the time, so you can find your favorite products when you need them. We transport the region's most precious cargo that supports successful businesses and promotes a better quality of life for our families. Matson is proud to have been the hometown shipping carrier for Guam, the CNMI, and Micronesia for the past 25 years, and you can count on us to be here for generations to come.
Only Pizza Hut lets you surround your favorite pizza with greatness. The one and only stuffed crust pizza tempts your taste buds with melted cheese stuffed inside that amazing crust. And at just $18.99 with one topping, the stuffed crust pizza is truly irresistible. So grab your slice of pizza perfection with cheesy goodness baked right into the crust. The stuffed crust pizza, just $18.99 with one topping. Only at Pizza Hut, the island's best.
Set and Spike, welcome to KUAM Sports.
Our partners with Clutch Guam now brings you the final score.
What I'm excited for this season is to work together with my teammates and to work our way up to the top and possibly get that championship.
I'm just excited to create better bonds with the girls. I'm excited to possibly reach a championship and create a good team bond.
So, how did that game feel? It was nice. I didn't do anything, but good job, team.
Is there anything up your sleeve, anything you're hiding, anything we can expect from you all this season?
Well, the tactics and strategies that we have, we will not be able to tell you guys, but
it's confidential.
Very confidential. But we will.
It's not a mic stand.
And shout out to Foodies,
Clutch, and to the whole Southern High School community. Yeah!
And that's all on today's Clutch, inspired by stories.
All right, and we'll be back to wrap up the show in a moment.
wait is over, Guam. The all-new state-of-the-art car wash is now open at Cars Plus. Introducing Finish Line Express, open 7 days a week. The all-new cashless drive-through car wash is also the largest car wash on island that can accommodate vehicles such as lifted Jeeps and full-size pickup trucks. Just roll up, pick a wash, insert credit card, or show your EverWash app and roll through. Plus, power vacuums are available to clean the interior. Show your vehicle some love today at the all-new car wash at Cars Plus in Maui. Open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
New chicken nuggets from KFC? Everybody is gonna want these. Let's eat these inside.
Try new Kentucky Fried Chicken Nuggets. You've never had nuggets like these.
Guam's auto appearance specialist, Elegant Reflections, has been providing the automotive industry with professional detailing and car care products at its highest quality, from complete detailing, full interior detailing, exterior detailing, headlamp restoration, hand washing, seat and carpet shampoo, engine degreasing, undercarriage cleaning, paint sealant, fabric protection, paint oxidation removal, and so much more. Visit us at our new location. Call 646-5555 for an appointment. Elegant Reflections, Guam's auto appearance specialist, over 20 years of experience.
Let's see what's happening now around town.
Here's your News Bites with Jason Salas.
All right, half a day, everybody. Before we get to tonight's News Bites, right? Who came up with that rumor that said on Wednesdays nothing's happening on Guam? There's a ton of stuff happening here and up in the CNMI, and that's why we're here. We're going to tell you all about it. Man, there's Amway meetings, there's Bible studies, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And now, here's what's happening that you need to know about. The Department of Public Health and Social Services is inviting our island community to recognize 2023 Breastfeeding Awareness Month. A health fair is going to take place on the 27th up at the Micronesia Mall. That's from 11 to 3. Go help our friends there. I did a live stream with some folks from Public Health. Really, really important. Really, really nice people. They're going to give you the information you know. Dancing is the creative arts, and we all love dance, and the elite Guam Dance Academy is holding their debut concert entitled Dance Spectrum, A New Beginning. It's on Saturday, August 26th at Veritas Hall. That's up in Jigo at Dominican Catholic School. The matinee show is at 3 in the afternoon with the gala show 4 hours later at 7. Adults are $15 and children 12 and under are just 12. And remember how I was mentioning the CNMI? If you are in Tinian, we got news for you because the Department of Labor up in Tinian is hosting a partnership to let you know what types of job opportunities are available. It's held at the Tinian Public Library, and that job fair takes place on the 17th at 9 a.m. through noon. You want to make sure to check that out because opportunity is abounding. Opportunity is calling. Will you answer the phone? We hope you do, and we hope you find a wonderful job there. And thank you to our friends up in Tinian for putting that on. And thank you for your visual patronage. I always love bringing you guys, telling you guys everything that's happening in the community. You could Google like 100 times. All you got to do is just come here to News Bites, and we'll tell you everything that's going on. Whew. I'm going to catch my breath. So Nick and Destiny, back to you guys. Man, that was a lot.
Thanks, Jace. Well, as our TD, Mike Villagomez, says, we're going to birthdays.
Oh, yeah. Here's your Cold Stone Creamery birthday club shout-out submitted on KUAM.com.
It's Wednesday, so of course, everybody, that means it's the middle of the week. And smack dab in the middle of our birthday shout-outs, Hayden Sage Mangonia Cruz has the limelight. Absolutely solo. Happy 6th birthday to Hayden Sage, and we love you so much, says your loving family and your friends and your neighbors and your family, everybody out there who knows Hayden Sage. So we wish you a very, very happy birthday and the best day ever to you and to your family.
And that's your primetime show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Nick Delgado.
And I'm Destiny Cruz. Stay beautiful and good night.
This program lineup is brought to you by Vision Express.